This is Join Us in France, episode 573. 573. Bonjour, I'm Annie Sargent, and Join Us in France is the podcast where we take a conversational journey through the beauty, culture, and flavors of France. Today, I bring you a conversation with Bobbi Heath about renting a boat on the Canal du Midi. Discover how to slow travel through France's wine country, navigate locks, and enjoy life on the water without needing boating experience. Bobbi shares practical tips, hidden gems, and why this is her favorite vacation ever. Perfect for wine lovers, adventurers, and anyone dreaming of a unique French getaway. This podcast is fueled by chocolatine, which you'll find a lot in the Southwest, coffee, and the generosity of listeners like you. You book itinerary consults, take my voice map tours in Paris, hop in my electric car around the southwest of France, or chip in on Patreon. And I am so grateful for you. Want to keep me going and skip the ads? There's a link for that in the show notes as well. And you'll find everything at joinusinfrance.com/boutique. Bootcamp 2026 is sold out. If you'd like to be put on the waiting list just in case someone drops out, email me, Annie at joinusinfrance.com. The waiting list is also first come, first serve, so don't wait. For the magazine part of the podcast, for my chat with Bobbi today, I'll discuss metro and bus glitches in Paris for visitors and also wonder how recent is the whole idea of tourism. If you'd like all the links and the full episode transcript, you can find it on the page that lists all episodes by month at joinusinfrance.com/episodes. And if you'd like a handy summary of the conversation with all the useful links, subscribe to the newsletter at joinusinfrance.com/newsletter because it's the best way to stay in the loop. Bonjour, Bobbi Heath, and welcome to Join Us in France.
Bonjour, Annie. Thank you for inviting me.
Wonderful to have you today. We have a great conversation prepared. You had adventures on the Canal du Midi, and you really enjoyed it. So I want to hear all about it. Introduce yourself a little bit and tell us why you decided to take this trip and when it took place as well.
Okay, I'm Bobbi Heath. I live in the U.S. in New England, near the Cape Cod in the winter and in Maine in the summer. We are people who love boats. I've been to France, 10 or 12 times since about 2010. And being able to go to France and combine that with a boating adventure was very appealing to me. So in 2018, my husband Dan and I invited our friends Amy and Nate to go with us on a week-long trip down the Canal du Midi. We were able to book it pretty easily, and we went from September 29th through August 6th on the canal. We flew through Madrid to Toulouse and took a train to Carcassonne. We stayed there one night in a B&B and enjoyed that absolutely beautiful old city and the new city. And then we took a taxi to a little town called Homps, where our canal boat was waiting for us.
So spell the name of that town?
Homp.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. Now, why the Canal du Midi? We have a lot of canals in France. Why that one?
Well, because of the location in the Southwest, and because it's probably the most popular one that people go on. On subsequent trips, we've investigated others, but having enough water in them in some of the others can be tricky, depending on how hot and dry the weather has been. And we also had two different people that we bumped into had been on the Canal de Midi, and they recommended it.
Excellent. Excellent. So you started in Homs, je crois. I think it's you say Homs, but I've never been there, so I'm not certain how they say it. But you started there. How many kilometers did you travel on this trip, would you say?
Oh, I'm not sure. We started going up the canal, meaning the water was coming down. Let me just say a little bit about the canal. The Canal de Midi was built in the late 1600s, designed by Pierre-Paul Riquet. Louis XIV was the king, and this was an idea that even the Romans had, connecting the Atlantic to the Mediterranean so that the boats did not have to go around Spain. And Riquet had a number of engineering great ideas that allowed this to happen, the locks being one, and the idea of getting water from the Black Mountains at the highest point on the route so that there would always be water flowing down the canal to the Mediterranean and into the river in Toulouse. This was a huge improvement for shipping goods around, and everything was shipped on these canal barges. And now, of course, we don't need them anymore. We have railways and roads. And so mostly it's people for pleasure on the Canal du Midi. So we went first up the river, I mean, up the canal, to back to Carcassonne, where we stayed overnight, went to a marvelous restaurant that sadly is not there anymore. We found that our canal boat did not have enough wine glasses, which was a bad thing. And so we went to this wonderful wine and cheese shop called La Ferme, and they were able to supply us. And to this day, we all four still have our wine glasses that we bought there.
Very nice.
On the first night we were there, we went in the beautiful old medieval city, which there are two parts to Carcassonne, the beautiful medieval city, where we had a fabulous dinner. This was probably the only real gourmet dinner of the trip at Le Table d'Alais. That restaurant is still there. We have gone back to the region several times since this trip because we have friends that moved there during the pandemic, and we have been to the restaurant again, and it is just as good as it was the first time. So I highly recommend that one.
So is it a table d'Alain? Is it the first name Alain?
No, Dalais, like Alice. Dalais, Alais.
I've never eaten there.
I think I gave you a link to it.
Oh, you gave me a link. Oh, you're too good to me. Thank you.
Okay. I like both the new town, the lower town, and La Cité, which is what they call the medieval city. It is also spectacularly beautiful at night, and so that's a good time to go. It has quite a touristy element inside, but there are also some fabulous shops of we've brought back leather goods and table linens and stuff like that. But there's also a lot of, touristy stuff and a lot of people.
Yes, I love the little stores in Carcassonne. For some reason, for a touristy town, most of them I don't even go in. But in Carcassonne, for some reason, I like those. And they're not that different than other touristy towns, but I just happen to like them.
I agree. Me too. That was a really wonderful part of the trip. So we turned around in Carcassonne and we started now going down the canal. And going down the canal is a lot easier than going up
Hmm.
because there are many locks on the canal to adjust the height as the land goes down towards the sea. And it is easier when you're new to the lock system to toss your bow and stern lines up around the bollard when you can see the bollard, which you can do when you're going down. When you're going up, what you do is you stop right before the lock and let a person off, and then that person will catch the lines and put them around the bollard. Though our team did so well that they didn't even need someone to do that after a while. They could see the mark on the side of the lock and they could toss the line around the bollard without seeing it.
Right. So you are experienced sailboaters, I guess.
We are experienced boaters, but it is not necessary for this trip. I think you should be able to drive a car because you have to steer, but the canal has a speed limit and the rental canal boats are physically fixed so they can't go faster than that. And that's 8 kilometers an hour or 5 miles an hour. And the reason for that is not just safety, it's because the sides of the canal are very fragile. And if people are going fast with wakes, then that erodes the canal. And so everybody is going slow.
Right.
All the rental boats have fenders or bumpers all the way around them. So, if they bump into somebody or each other, it's not a big deal.
Right. Now, you've said up and down the canal. I'm not used to that sort of terminology. So, what you were saying is that the water runs from west to east? Is that what it is?
No, the water runs from the high point in the canal, which is in Nazuz.
Yeah, le seuil de Naurouz, I think it's called.
Yeah, Noruz, yes. And so there's a big pool in Noruz that collects the water from the Black Mountains. And then there are sluice gates that let it go in. So it goes towards Toulouse in one direction, or they let it go in the other side and it goes towards the Mediterranean.
Ah, okay.
The two ends of it are at sea level, well, including the river from Toulouse to the Atlantic. Those two ends are at sea level, but in the middle, it's higher than that.
Sure.
So the water, that was one of the innovations, was finding a way to feed the water into the canal so that it would always have water.
Okay, okay, I get it, I get it. I've lived here my whole life. You're teaching me something, and I've gone through the Seuil de Naurouz a few times. Like when you drive on the freeway, there's a big old sign that says, "Oh, Seuil de Naurouz this way."
Yeah,
But I mean, it doesn't look like it's a big mountain or anything. It's just a hill. I'm not sure how I guess he was a geographer and he knew that it would work.
yes,
Right. Engineer and geographers working together made this happen. Okay, so from the Seuil de Naurouz to Toulouse, it runs towards the west.
yes, it runs towards Toulouse, yes, towards the west. And then,
Okay. And then on the other side, it runs towards the Med.
yes, so it runs towards the east. That's right.
I have learned something. Thank you, Bobby. I've never sailed anything, so.
I'm not sure I learned that until I came back because the part that we were on was always going the same way.
Uh-huh, uh-huh. Yes, 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 yes. Yes, that makes sense. Yes, because you started in Homps and you went west a little bit, but then you made your way back.
We turned around and we came back. The reason we did that was we really didn't know how far we were going to get each day.
Uh-huh.
And so we wanted to make sure that we could get back to turn the boat in on the proper day. And so we went up to Carcassonne and then back through and then down towards the Med. And we went as far as Le Somail,
Okay.
a beautiful little town that has lovely canal side restaurants, beautiful old buildings, and the most amazing bookstore that I ever went in
Really? Why?
because it has so many books. Of course, they're all in French.
Sure.
I think I've read 4 or 5 books in French now, very, very slowly. But this bookstore, it's just incredible. Actually, when we were on the canal, the day we were there, it was closed, but I've subsequently been back there 2 or 3 times, and I always come out with a wonderful book. Maigret, we've gotten many Maigret books there,
Yeah.
and last time I got a beautiful book with drawings of the Ode area and little scribbles by an artist. It was just a lovely book that I treasure. And I gave you the name of it in the notes.
Right. I'm just looking at Google Maps and it's showing me le Trouve-Tout du Livre.
Yes.
Yeah. So the everything finder of books. So apparently it's someone who likes to go looking for specific books.
Yes, it's a used bookstore.
Very nice.
So that was quite a treat. The other thing in that area that was wonderful is a museum called the Amphoralis. An amphora is a clay pot, usually pointed on the end in the 50 AD. They would use these, they would put them on animals, and wine and grain and olive oil, everything was transported around the Roman Empire in these beautiful amphora. And the Amphoralis is an architectural dig and a museum of amphora that were built at that place thousands of years ago. And just it is just astonishing what they did. And we have enjoyed visiting that. And in fact, we were so enamored with the name that when we replaced our boat here in Maine with a new one, we named it Amphora because it's a vessel that carries wine.
Yeah, nice, nice.
And you did ask me, why did I choose the Canal du Midi? There's also a reason why I chose the particular part of it that we went on, because, the part that we went on is probably less than a quarter of the whole thing.
Mhm.
That's the part where the wineries are. I'm a wine enthusiast, and so I really was more interested in that part. Towards Toulouse, beyond where we went, is more farming and Castelnaudry, and if you like cassoulet, maybe you wanna go there.
Right, right.
And then beyond Le Somail, after you go through Béziers, you pretty soon are on in these, do you call them étangs?
Les étangs, yeah.
Les étangs, oui, and they're great big, long, like, saltwater lakes that are along the coast,
Mhm.
and I would like to go do that next time, I think,
Mhm, mhm.
because, to Sète and Agmont and all those nice places, which I've been in a car, but I'd like to go to them in a boat.
Right, right. No, that would be a lot of fun. Set in a boat would be fun. It looks so cool, and they do so much. It is true that New England and places like Set have a strong kind of culture of boating, and you kind of grow up boating around, and it's part of the enjoyment of life. And I mean, I grew up in a city, never going on a boat other than, the occasional little trip along the coast or something. But really, it's so pleasant. There's something about being on a boat that is just really, really pleasant.
And life slows down. Our typical day was the night before when we came to where we were going to stay overnight, where we either tied up to the side or we stuck these great big spikes into the side and tied our lines around them. We would go and find the patisserie. So in the morning, Amy and I would get up and the guys would sleep in, and we would go buy the baguette and the pastries for breakfast. And we'd come back to the boat, and then we always drove the boat. We left so we would get to the first lock we were going to meet by 9 o'clock when the locks open.
Mm.
The locks are open from 9 to 7 most of the year, or most of the time of the year when you can rent a boat. And they close for an hour at lunch.
Aha.
So a lot of people, who are on vacation, they don't want to get up early. And so there's a lot more traffic after lunch than there is in the morning. And, you might have to wait while other boats go through the lock, and then the water has to be put in the lock in the other direction. And boats come the other way. You could end up waiting an hour or two sometimes, or 30 minutes at a lock. And so we would go early so that we were usually the first people through, and we rarely had to wait.
So did you try to arrive at your destination for the day, like early afternoon or something like that?
Yes, yes. And then we would go explore.
Mm-hmm. Did you have bicycles on the boat, or was this on foot?
Yes, we did have bicycles. Unfortunately, our bicycles, we should have tested the bicycles pretty thoroughly, and we didn't. And so we had one bicycle that whose chain kept coming off.
Mm,
We got pretty good at putting it back on.
right.
So my recommendation is to people who want to do this is that you need to check everything that is supposed to be on the boat
Yeah.
and make sure that it's all in working condition and you have enough dishes and linens and stuff. I mean, everything is supplied, the towels, the sheets, it's all supplied, but you just make sure everything's there
Yeah.
and everything works before you depart. And some of the things are extra, like the bicycles are extra. The fuel is not part of the original rental cost because the amount of fuel you need depends on how far you go. And so, you pay for that at the end. And also the cleaning of the boat, unless you want to do it yourself. But, we didn't want to do that.
Yeah. Did you have to refuel the boat at any point?
No, the boats they go for like 2 weeks before you have to refuel them.
Okay. I mean, this is just me, the electric person, but once all these boats are electric, it's going to be so much cleaner. And they could totally put CCS plugs on the side of the canal at set points. And, they do that with cruise ships that are ginormous. So they can definitely do it for small boats. So that's the future of boating, I guess.
And it'll be quieter. Well, we're already seeing people here with electric outboards here in Maine.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, once you've had the quiet and the power of electric, you really don't, most of us anyway, don't want to go back to anything else. We didn't talk about the company that you rented from and what you've learned about the types of companies that do this.
Okay. There are quite a few companies, actually. The two that we saw the most boats from were Le Boat, LE space BOAT, which is where we rented ours, and Locaboat, LOCABOAT. And the Locaboats are kind of prettier. They look like they're fiberglass, but they're in the shape of the old paniche boats, which are the ones that went up and down in the old days. Both of them have like 3 or 4 places along the canal where you can rent the boats and return them. You can rent them for a week or 2 weeks or whatever you want, and you don't have to return them at the same place. You do have to return to the same company, of course, but you can start in one place and end in another if you want to only go one direction. I kind of like the idea of going 2 directions because you actually do see different things depending on which direction you're going, you know, what you observe.
True.
Both of them, I looked up the prices for this year, both Locaboat and LeBoat. It's about $1,200 for the week for a boat for, they say 4 to 6 people, but I think 4 people is more comfortable. In the 4-person case, you each couple has a stateroom with a bathroom. Other people could sleep on the cushions around the table, but, very comfortable for those small boats. For the ones they say are 4 to 6 people are really great for 4.
Right. So you have two rooms, but they must be very small rooms.
They are. They are very small rooms. And that means that you should not arrive with a suitcase. You need to arrive with a duffel bag so you have a place to put it after you've taken your stuff out.
That is a very wise recommendation.
And both of them this year are about $1,200 for a week. And then it's maybe 3 or 400 for the fuel. And then the bicycles and stuff they're not very expensive.
Yeah. That doesn't sound like an expensive vacation for 4 people.
No, and especially because you don't need to rent a car. The trains along the canal route are very easy to get to the towns where you can rent the boats using a train and maybe a short taxi ride.
Right.
I don't know if Uber is big in that region or not, but we took taxis.
You can do Uber, yeah. Yeah, yeah. We use Uber. I mean, I'm near Toulouse, but we use Uber. What's the other one? Bolt is another one that you see.
Yeah, so, you do not need a car. You do need to get some groceries and stuff when you first get on the boat. You want your tea bags, and
So is it like an Airbnb where when you arrive, there's nothing on the boat?
that's right. There's no food on the boat at all. It's like a floating Airbnb. And of course, you want to get your wine. The grocery stores, the Intermarché, the Leclerc, they all have very good selections of wine and everything that you want. And so we usually had dinner somewhere in the town whenever we could. And we would have lunch on the boat, and the lunch would be cheese, fruit, tomatoes, bread, saucisson, that kind of a picnic lunch.
Yeah.
The boats have a stove and an oven. We used the stove to make hot water, and we didn't ever use the oven.
Mhm. Mhm. But you could do basic cooking if you wanted to.
You could do if you wanted to.
And there's probably a small fridge?
Yes, a small fridge.
Yeah. Like how big?
Under the counter kind of fridge.
Okay, okay. Under the counter type of size. Okay.
Yeah. The galley is not very big. It's maybe 6 feet long counter, storage underneath,
Mm-hmm.
you know, stove, oven,
A few
fridge.
drawers, perhaps, and that's it.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Silly question, but we just got done with a first very hot few days. Are these air conditioned or no? Or heated even?
Not to my knowledge, but, it was the end of September when we went.
Right. End of September, early October, most years you don't need it.
We didn't need it.
Yeah.
So I would say that Le Boat actually, both of them have very good websites. Le Boat actually has a big chart that will show you how long it will take you to get from place A to place B, all down through the locks, which is very useful.
Mm-hmm.
Next time I go, I would do Boat just to try their pretty boats and to see how different it was. But both of those, and they are both very good about answering emails if you have a question. And one more thing about the cost, if you want to book like 3 months ahead of time, they'll give you like 30% off.
Oh, wow.
I mean, the big times are July and August. Especially, you can get a discount, especially if you go earlier in the season or later. Now, you can probably speak better to this than I can, which is it's maybe more rainy in the spring than in the fall.
Yeah, sometimes it depends. This year was not particularly rainy in the spring. Last year we had a very rainy spring. So who knows? Who knows, you know?
I was by the canal the last 2 weeks of March and it poured. So this year. So you were lucky.
Yeah. Oh, it can pour, that's for sure. It can happen. But overall, this year was a little drier than last, but it still rained plenty. Yeah. Yeah, I think if I was going to do something like this, I would try it in April or May, maybe June. But you know what? This year, June has been very, very hot.
And I think you definitely don't want to do it in August. And also, the people on other boats were not French. They were German, they were English, they were Australian, they were Dutch. We did not see any rental boat that when we spoke to the people that they were French, which is interesting.
Yeah.
Now, the individual barges that people own, those are mostly Dutch people, but some of them could have been French.
Yeah. I think the Dutch have a very strong culture of boating.
Yes,
You know, French, not as much, unless they are coastal French people.
exactly. Many more sailboats.
You mentioned in the document you sent me that perhaps you would start at Argens instead so that you can do the étang. You can do the, what do you say étang in English?
I don't know. It's like a
It's a place where birds nest.
well, I don't know. It's not really a marsh.
L'étang de Thau.
It's not really a marsh.
Yeah, it's not.
It's like a lake, but it's a saltwater lake right on the edge of the Mediterranean Sea.
Lagoon, I guess.
Yeah, a lagoon. Yes, like a lagoon.
Yeah, it's a lagoon, yeah.
So when I told you that was before I read that going down the 7 lock staircase at Font-Serein might take you a day or 2 days waiting in line. And so you can start Homps and Argens are very near each other. So you could, and the two different one of Loca boat is in Argens and Le Boat is in Homps. So you could do what we did.
I see.
You could do what we did from either of those places. But I think I would start in Costa Fier, which is kind of towards the end of the canal down in the Etang.
Costa Fier? How do you spell that?
Oh, Costa Fier. Cassafieres. That is where Loca Boat has their most eastward place where you can rent a boat is in Port Casafier.
So Casafier. Ah, okay. I'm finding it now. Okay. Yeah, I've never heard of any of these places.
Yeah.
Port Castafier, Port Portiragne is the town, I guess. Interesting. So you would go from this Port Castafier and you would go.
No, I would go west and then come back because, I've been to the 7 locks in a row and Fonseran
That's in Narbonne. Fonserrane, yes. That's by Narbonne.
is in Béziers.
Ah, Béziers. You're right. You're right.
That is beautiful. I've been there on foot, but
Right. Me too.
if you have to wait in line a whole day to go through it,
Yeah, you're not moving much.
so I would start on the eastern side of that stack of blocks.
Fantastic. So, what other advice can you give people who are thinking about doing this? What other things would you recommend?
So I would recommend that you have non-slip shoes, you bring gloves for handling the lines. They're quite rough and the water's very dirty.
Aha.
The water is really dirty. Sunglasses, hat, anything you might need from a drugstore. Most of the towns in France have a pharmacy, more likely a pharmacy grocery store, actually, but you really need to bring your meds with you. If you are gluten free, you need to bring your bread with you and your pastries because even though French flour has less gluten in it, if you really can't have any, I don't know, Annie, maybe you have some advice on that.
No, I don't. I've heard people say I can't handle gluten in the US, but I do fine in France. But I'm assuming that if you have celiac disease, the full on celiac disease, you can't eat either one.
Yeah. I would recommend that if you're not a boater, that you have 4 people. It's very easy to do the locks with 4 people. With 2, it's more difficult, and if you only have 2 people, then you probably should start going downstream because it is easier to learn there. I would not take small children on this. Teenagers I would take, but the locks require attention from everyone on the boat because there are going to be 2 or 3 other boats in the lock with you quite frequently. And there is a person who is making the water go in and out. There's a lot guy.
Yeah, master, whatever.
Those people are expecting everyone on all the boats to do the right things. We were in a lock once where 2 boats got too close together and one of them was kind of hung up on the other one, and the lock keeper was yelling at these guys, and he had to add water back in the lock so that they could get separate from each other. So, little kids, I wouldn't bring them.
Right. But teenagers or older kids that are used to boats, maybe?
Yeah. However, when you think of teenagers, this is in a bucolic area. There's no movie theater when you get where you're going each night, you know.
No, no. Yeah.
And also, I would say if you want to do the most beautiful villages in Provence, this is not that. These are wonderful towns, many of them with 19th and 18th century buildings in them, with delightful vineyards, nice wine tasting, but it's not, there's not a lot of beautiful baskets of flowers and stuff. There's some, but
Yeah, it's not Instagrammable, most of these places. They are very nice, but it's not the sort of place where you see 1,000 pictures of that on Instagram.
yes, I have beautiful videos of going down the canal and the trees planted on both sides and people riding bicycles on the path next to it. It's lovely in that sense. And in Treb, which is near Carcassonne, there is a bridge that has a beautiful flower baskets on it that's absolutely gorgeous. Near a good bakery, by the way. But, that's not every town.
Yeah, and if you show up on a Sunday night, that's the typical problem in France. On a Sunday night, all the restaurants are closed. They were open Saturday.
Yes,
Finding a place to eat on Sunday night is or on a Monday night is sometimes not easy.
yes,
So you need to be aware of these things and just have a plan B just in case you don't find anywhere. Because these are not big places. They're not going to have 50 restaurants to choose from.
yes. And I would recommend the Waterways Guide, de Brea, Breil publishes. You can buy them. Well, I think they have them on the La boats, and at Local Boats you can buy one. But we got one before we went, and it describes every lock, every town, and then you can go look them up and see what kind of restaurants there are. And I had a plan before we left of roughly where we would stay each night, based mainly on the restaurants.
Right. Because you could stop anywhere. I mean, you could dock your boat along the side of the canal anywhere you want, right?
Yes, that's right. You can. You can. Now, there are some alternatives. If you don't want to drive the boat. There are hotel barges with crews and meals, and they drive, and you just enjoy. And they stop in various places and maybe take you on a tour of something, a winery or some interesting thing in the town. Those are, of course, much more expensive. But, if you don't want to drive the boat, we like to go on boats that we can drive. And then another alternative is biking the canal towpath instead of boating. And so the canal towpaths are very pretty, and nobody's got horses towing their boats anymore. So they're used for hiking and biking. There are companies that will help you do that. So that's another thing that you can do.
And you don't really need a company. You could do it by yourself and just, if you want your backpack carried, there are like La Malpostale who could take it for you. There are, you know, things you could do. Although La Malpostale is mostly for hikers, I think, but maybe they do bikers as well. I'm not familiar enough to be sure, but you mentioned in your document that you go to the market in the morning and you buy a few things, and then it's just slow travel, which is the beauty of it, and it suits some people, but not so much other people. You wrote in what you sent me that this was your favorite vacation ever.
Yes, absolutely. Because it combines France, wine, and boats. Those are like all my favorite things. And sometimes you might even find an outdoor market. There is a website called jourdemarché.fr, and you can put in the name of a town and it will tell you where and when the markets are. So Carcassonne, Trèbes, they all have markets that you would be able to walk to from your boat if you happen to be there on the right day.
Right.
And I love buying food and vegetables and stuff at the markets. That's like really nice.
Right. And the canal does not go very close to the Carcassonne citadel, right? It's closer to the new city.
The canal goes right by the railroad station in the lower town.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It is a little walk to get to, let's see.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the citadel is not that far. If you're at the train station, you can hoof it to the citadel or there's a public bus, there's taxis, etc. So if you don't want to hoof it, there's other ways to do this. But yeah, it sounds like, a really nice way to enjoy a week. Do you think you would have gotten bored if you did it too long? Like a week is sufficient, right?
Oh, I could have easily done another week going, further along the canal and been perfectly happy. But you can see quite a bit of it in a week. You can have a really good time. One time when we went in the car to Castle Naudry and we stopped at where Locaboat has the western end of where they rent the boats. And we met these people who had done the whole canal, and they do it every year, and they've done it for 20 years. This group do the canal every year.
Wow.
Yeah,
So they probably just do it because they like to hang out together.
and it's a beautiful place to hang out where you get to be in a different place every night.
Yeah, you don't want to be with someone who bores you.
Yeah,
That's not good.
Yeah.
Because you would not have a lot of good company. Like, there's nothing much else happening. So you want to go with people you like.
that's very true.
So I'm assuming that even the good boats, the pretty boats, it's not super flush in there, right? I mean, it's like,
No, I think my husband said it's like an RV that floats. I think that that's the way I would describe it. Now, all of these boat companies have newer boats and boats that have been in service for longer. And so the newer ones may be a bit nicer and they will, of course, cost a bit more. But on their websites, they give you quite a good picture of, they give you a map of the layout of the boats and they give you pictures of the insides. So, you could get a pretty good idea.
right. And you probably don't want to show up with too much stuff
Right.
because you would have nowhere to put it.
That's right. But you do need rain gear. And, when we went, we needed, sweatshirts and stuff because it was cool.
Yeah.
You do not need your bathing suit because you do not want to swim in it. It is very dirty. So no swimming
Yeah.
unless you're in a place where there is another body of water to swim in.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't think you fish in it either. I wouldn't eat fish from there. Yeah.
No, no,
Yeah.
definitely not.
Yeah. Hopefully someday it'll be nicer, but at this moment in history, it's not great. Yeah.
And as you say, there are lots of other canals. There are canals in Burgundy and Champagne, and those would be really fun too. But you run a risk in some of them when you book them ahead of time and you've got your flights and everything. And then if there's not enough water, then you're in France, but you don't have the place that you thought you were going to stay.
Right, right. And this happens with river cruises all the time.
I guess it does. Yeah.
Yes, there are river cruises like with bigger cruise boats that can have a few hundred passengers and whatever. I've heard of people saying, well, we booked a river cruise and it was really a bus tour because the boat couldn't go very much. The boat could only go from A to B, and we were supposed to do C and D and E, and we didn't. We did that. I mean, they still, you know, took you around, but in a bus.
Yeah.
So
I don't, yeah, that's not going to, there's not going to be a bus, I don't think, for these guys that rent these boats.
no, not on the Canal du Midi. But you did say that it has enough water, right?
Yes, I don't think that that is really a problem with the quality, but it is, I think it is with some of the other canals.
Yes, yes,
Maybe I should say a little bit about the wine adventures.
yes. Briefly, we need to. But yes, I want to hear about that.
So mostly we bought wine at the grocery stores and we, bought wine of the region and we tried it ourselves on the boat. But in Argent, there is a cooperative that's right on the river in this big, beautiful building. And it's almost a museum of wine. They have big, beautiful pictures of each of the kinds of grapes that are grown in the area where they describe them. And you can see all the vats and everything. And they do a tasting. So we did a tasting there. And they also have, should you have your own container, you can do vin en vrac,
Oh yeah.
where you take a nozzle that looks like you're filling your car up and you squirt wine into your container and you take it with you. So that's nice. In Peraza, there's Chateau Peraza, where I later went to a music concert and did a wine tasting there, but that's easily walkable from the canal. And then you may find, some little guys just trying to get started with a sign on the canal, trying to make their wine, and you can go try them too.
Sure. And what's good about this is, on big cruise ships, you have to pay a fortune to get Wi-Fi, to get any data. But here, you might as well be on land. It's the same, right?
You just use your phone.
Yeah, your phone will work perfectly well so long as you have a data plan. You don't have to plan on anything else. And if you have that book that tells you all the places you can go, I assume it also includes some wineries. There's a lot of very low key kind of wineries in this area where you can just, go in and see what they have and try a few things and buy a couple of bottles. And they're very happy to see you. It's really not like the sort of place where you have to make an appointment and pay a fee for a wine tasting and whatever. I doubt any of these places charge a fee for anything.
Yeah, it's much more laid back. And most of where we were is in the Minervois region, which lovely, lovely wine.
It's good wine.
It's good. It's very good wine.
Minerve is good wine. Yeah. Yeah, Corbière and Minerve are very good wines. They're red mostly, but they are really, really interesting. And they don't export very much because this area, for historical reasons, because this area has suffered from some bad reputation in the 50s and 60s. But they've cleaned up their act and they make good wines now.
They do. And you're very close to Corbière, so you can easily get those. Saint Chanian, there's lots of really nice wine there, and it's not expensive.
I would say if you're going to do this, you might not. I mean, I assume that the people who go on these sorts of vacations are perhaps retired, or some of them anyway are. And they might want to, pair that up with a week with a car or something, like do something else around it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, where you get to go a little further and see other things that are not right around the canal. Because when you're on a boat, you're kind of tied to the canal. You can't go that far. I mean, you have a bike. You could go a few places if the bikes were good enough.
Yes. Well, and if you fly into Toulouse, we went through Madrid, but there's a lot of different ways to get to Toulouse. you can rent a car and go to Bordeaux, which is what we did this year after we spent 2 weeks down by the canal. Then we went a few months ago, we went to Bordeaux for a week.
Right. 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 And so this more recent vacation, you didn't do any boating on the canal. You just spent time along the canal.
Yes, our friends live very close to Le Somail, and we have been back 3 times since we did the canal boat trip, and so in the car, we investigated the canal in both directions beyond where we went, to see if we would like to go there in the future.
And this is the sort of place where you have a lot of abbeys. Some of them you can visit. You have a lot of chateaus. They name them the Cathar castles, but it's a bit more complicated than that, but it'll do. So you don't have it's not Loire castles, okay? This is mostly castles that have had a very hard life
Yes.
where there's not much left of them, but it makes for a fun hike up to this high point and views, and there's great gastronomy in the area. There's just a lot of fun things that you can do around this if you have the time. And if you take this sort of vacation, clearly you like to take your time.
And here's another restaurant, Auberge de la Croisade in Frisy. I put that in the notes for you.
Right, I'll put it in the website as well, yeah.
That's a very good one. It's a little bit beyond.
I saw it, you recommended several, and there's a bunch of them. There's a bunch of
I think I've mentioned them. Yeah. Unfortunately, not everyone that we went to in 2018 is still there, sadly, but we found some new ones in subsequent visits.
restaurants come and go. That's just the nature of the business.
They do.
Bobbi, it has been a delight talking to you. Thank you so much for sharing all that. I think in this crazy world that we live in, it would be very nice to get away for a week with some good friends and just reconnect and not do all that much besides a few, moving the boat a little bit every day.
Yes, absolutely. That's my kind of vacation.
Merci beaucoup, Bobbi, and enjoy your future visits to France.
Thank you. We will.
Merci, au revoir.
Again, I want to thank my patrons for giving back and supporting the show. Patrons get many exclusive rewards for doing that. You can see them at patreon.com/join us. I don't have any new patrons to thank this week because this had to be pre-recorded early on account of my trip through France that I'll tell you about in just a second. Would you join my patrons too? You can do it for as little as $3 a month, but if you can afford it, I would love to have you pledge more so you can have access to more of the things that I make extra for you. Go to patreon.com/join us, Patreon, join us, no spaces or dashes. And to support Elise, go to patreon.com/Elise Art. Somebody left this review of my voice map tour this week. This is about the Eiffel Tower. I've seen the Eiffel Tower before, but did not know about some of the vantage points Annie takes us to in this walking tour. The incredible viewpoints plus the interesting information she provides make the cost of this walking tour money well spent and a real bargain. About my Latin Quarter tour, incredible walking tour packed with so many interesting spots that a casual stroll through the area doesn't see. Thank you for a fabulous tour. Well, thank you for taking the time to take the tours and review them. Voice Map is like having your own private tour guide in your pocket. You can pause me whenever you want, grab a coffee, explore a side street. The tour picks right back up again when you're ready. There's no rushing, no schedule to follow. And podcast listeners get an exclusive discount when you buy these tours directly from my website. That's also a good way to support the show because it means more of what you pay comes straight to me instead of going through Apple or Google. And if you're planning a trip to France and would like some expert help, you can hire me as your itinerary consultant. If you already have a plan, I'll help you fine-tune it. And if you're just feeling overwhelmed by all the choices and not sure what sources to trust, I can design a custom plan for you. You'll find all the details at joinusinfrance.com/boutique. Let's talk about getting around Paris, because if you're planning a trip soon, there's a good chance you'll run into one of these new and sometimes confusing ticketing systems. First, the Navigo Easy card. It is supposed to make life simpler for travelers in Paris, but it's actually leaving a lot of people confused and occasionally stranded. This is the one I usually recommend, but with a few caveats. You need to understand this, how this works, because they've made it overcomplicated, which is a very French thing to do. This little plastic card replaced paper metro tickets. It costs €2 to buy the card, and you can hold single rides or day passes. That sounds good, right? The problem is you cannot load all types of tickets on it. Some buses, transfers, and regional routes still require separate purchases. So a lot of people get stuck at turnstiles having to buy another ticket. Commuters are complaining online about double charges sometimes, lost trips, and, minor system bugs. One traveler said his card counted 2 fares for the same ride. Anyway, there's things happen with his card that is unfortunate. Even drivers, bus drivers, are frustrated because passengers sometimes take it out on them and they can't do anything about it. Tourists are struggling too. One visitor from the Netherlands said she had to buy several Navigo Easy cards because one card would not work for all her routes. Yes, you have to have a separate one for metro and buses. Teachers, for example, if they're planning school outings, they have the same issue. They can't easily buy multiple types of tickets at once. Île-de-France Mobilité, the agency in charge, admits there are some logistical problem and promises improvements. But for now, the Navigo Easy remains, well, not so easy. Now, in other news, this one might surprise you. A few Paris buses have gotten a credit card reader for a ticket machine. Yes, you heard that right. So Île-de-France Mobilité has started installing small terminals on a few buses where you can buy a single ticket by tapping your credit or debit card. Paying for a bus ticket with a credit card? What kind of wild, futuristic, crazy idea is that? Of course, you can't pay with cash anymore, right? That would be too simple. And let's not even suggest that an occasional visitor might not want to install yet another app just to ride one bus one time. But here's the catch. The new tap system is just for emergencies. In France, they call it dépannage. It's a backup solution for when you forget your Navigo pass and can't buy a ticket before boarding. You tap your card, it charges €2.50, and you're good to go for that one bus trip. No transfers, no reduced fare, just that single ride. And normally a bus ticket is €2, so you're already paying extra for the privilege of tapping your card. It's not the true tap-to-ride system you find in cities like London or Lyon or Toulouse, but it's a very small step in that direction. Paris says upgrading every metro turnstile and tram gate would be too costly, so for now this new system will stay limited to buses, gradually expanding through 2026. Until then, you can still buy tickets by text. Just send your bus line number to 93100. I mean, what's next? Buying a ticket via fax? Or you can use your smartphone with the Bonjour RATP app or Île-de-France Mobilité app and also SNCF Connect app. It's amazing. It works. So if you're coming to Paris soon, my advice is skip the frustration. Use your phone to buy your tickets. It'll make your life much, much easier. Did you know that tourism is not as modern as we think? Let me take you on a short journey through the surprising origins, starting right in Paris at the foot of the Eiffel Tower. Recently, I listened to an interview with Frédéric Gérard, and he reminded me that while over 7 million people visit the Eiffel Tower each year, and 75% of them are from abroad, most of us don't think about how travel for pleasure came to be. In a way, you can trace tourism all the way back to ancient Rome. The Romans built impressive roads that made travel easier for trade, of course, but also for exploration. Still, travel for fun didn't really take off until the 17th and 18th century in France, when wealthy, educated Europeans started doing what they called le grand tour. These were extended trips across classical lands, Italy, Greece, France, for culture, art, and knowledge. And of course, you had the pilgrims who went around all over Europe to Compostela, to Rome, to Rocamadour, to holy sites like that, Jerusalem. But that was more of a religious kind of endeavor, let's put it that way. It's actually from the grand tours in the 17th and 18th century that we get the word tourism and tourist. Then in the 19th century, a British man named Thomas Cook created the first travel agencies. He organized group trips. Some even came through Strasbourg and Paris. Later, he added Nile cruises and world tours, which are kind of amazing. And thanks to the opening of the Suez Canal in 1869, global travel suddenly became faster and easier. Back in Paris, the 1900 Universal Exposition was a huge driver of tourism too. The beautiful Pont Alexandre III was built specifically for the expo, the goal to connect the Champs-Élysées to Les Invalides with a flat bridge. Though the engineers didn't quite stick to the plan, it's slightly arched, better for boats, but nobody's complaining because it's so gorgeous. Oh, and here's something quirky. One of the hottest attractions in the late 19th century Paris was, take a guess, the sewers. Yes, people used to visit the sewers of Paris in little wagons pulled by locomotives. Oh my God, that would be so awful. These tours ran until the 1950s when boats briefly took over. Today, you can explore the Paris sewer system at a museum near the Quai d'Orsay, minus the wagon or boat. So next time you're wandering Paris or planning a trip, remember, tourism may feel modern, but it's been making the rounds for centuries, layered with culture, curiosity, and more than a few surprises underfoot. I'll be off exploring France between November 22nd and December 3rd. I'll be driving to Paris to meet my godson and his very pregnant girlfriend for a 2-day visit of Paris. Like most French people, they don't know Paris very well, and my sister has them convinced that they haven't seen nothing in Paris until they've seen it with me. It's true that I have fun showing people around Paris. So off we go. It's my chance to spend time with my godson, which I haven't done since he was a child, and he's now a full-grown dentist, and his wife is also a full-grown dentist. Well, not wife yet, but that'll be next. That'll be soon. And I figure I might as well see more of France on the way. So I'll be stopping in Poitiers for 3 nights, Rouen for 2 nights, Paris for 5 nights. Only 2 days with the family, but I have some catching up to do in Paris. There's been some new attractions that I want to see besides the family visits. And then I'll do 3 nights in Vichy. So it's kind of a nice oval around France, from Toulouse to Poitiers, to Rouen, Paris, Vichy, and back to Toulouse. These are all cities that I don't know and want to explore. The electric car will get a lot of use, but it got new rear tires for its trouble. Michelin tires, of course. I'll be getting some more practice doing travel videos of places I don't know. I didn't want to Toulouse with my daughter, who's going to be my sidekick going forward, but we tried to cram in too much, and I have to simplify it. That's a problem, I think, when you know a city. You're like, oh, I could add this, I could add that, or maybe I should talk about this and that. And then you don't have the right footage, and then you're like, I'm stuck. Anyway, live and learn. I knew that learning how to produce an audio podcast and to make a website had stretched my gray matter. Well, doing travel video will stretch my gray matter even further, but I do love a challenge. I'm still practicing on my very kind patrons before I dare put anything out in YouTube. People in YouTube are not going to be as friendly as my patrons, that's for sure. I know you can't tell by listening to me. I sound like I'm a very confident person. But in real life, I'm not a looker type of person. You know, I'm an average looking person. I'm kind of heavy and all of that. And it makes me insecure in videos. But I will get over that hang up because some of my very favorite YouTubers are not fabulous looking either. And I still really enjoy their work. So I need to get over that hang up. So little by little, I'll just be including more videos, and hopefully my daughter will come along to help me out. Although she's not coming on this trip because she also has a full-time job. So can't do everything. My thanks to podcast editors Anne and Christian Codovan, who produced the transcripts. Next week on the podcast, an episode about eating vegetarian in Paris with Amber Haggerty. Great suggestions and inspiration for plant eaters and all eaters, really, because eating plants is best for us. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you join me next time so we can look around France together. Au revoir. The Join Us in France Travel podcast is written, hosted, and produced by Annie Sargent and copyright 2025 by Addicted to France. It is released under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives license.